Welcome to SAs and IPAs, presented by CDI Studios.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of SAs and IPAs. I am Michael Colonno, the AVP of the Data Center Solutions team. I'm joined today by two co-hosts. We have Kyle Mullen here in the center, VP of CDI. He currently can't talk. And then we also have...
I'm Bob McCouch, Director of Network Architects at CDI.
So, funny story. Kyle wanted to be here today, but he is currently taking care of his new child. So he is not with us, but he does look fantastic. We went with the cider from, just so everybody knows, we went with a cider in honor of him. No, it's kidding. We have a cider today from our last guest. He brought it. We did not get to drink it on camera, so we are drinking it ourselves. But yeah, thank you, Kyle, for joining us. Because this is the leadership team or part of the leadership team here at CDI, we figured we probably lead with Kyle talking about, any negative feedback that he has of the team. Bob and I in particular.
Individually.
Yeah. So
Kyle,
nothing. So obviously we're fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we wanted to talk about, leadership in general. We're both leaders here at CDI. We have people of different capabilities, different technological preferences, and things like that, right? You've added some newer people to the team, so I wanted to talk about how are you pairing those people, maybe with a senior person, or what are you doing to kind of forge that relationship within even CDI, our culture?
Yeah. It's an interesting problem, especially when you're taking somebody who's new to the organization completely, right? I mean, we've grown so much over the past 4 years.
Yep.
So there's a lot to navigate in terms of people, process. That some of us take for granted that we've just we know who to go to, right? So to me, it's about building that team culture where we're all we're in it together to try to make give our customers the best outcomes in every situation, and each of us come out of every day feeling like we've accomplished something, we've done our job, and can sleep peacefully.
Yeah.
So my personal take, I don't necessarily pair a new team member up with one individual. I'll kind of I'll have a new individual, new team member, pair up with a couple of other members of the team for different things, right?
Go around the horn.
Kind of go around the horn a little bit, because it gives you different opportunities to, kind of see different styles, especially with somebody who's new to solution architect, the role,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Which in the case of my new addition to the team, he is new to the solution architect role after having been a practicing network engineer at several other value-add resellers, as well as and customer enterprises. So it's been an opportunity to, start to develop that salesmanship, that culture.
Yeah,
Right.
I like that. You're right. I mean, he has the opportunity, as well as you have the opportunity, to expose him to different styles.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are we at CDI, as some of you have seen with our different hosts, co-hosts, different people, you've seen that we are a cast of characters. And
Including our esteemed leader.
especially Kyle, as some of the last few episodes you have has came out, please rewatch the birthday episode. But it is one of those things, and on the last episode that you were on, we talked about how that even marriage between a salesperson and SA,
Right.
but it's true in terms of just where you find your own personality in front of people.
Yeah.
That's a new process.
Everyone's got to find their voice, right? And I think that's what's interesting about the solution architect role is you've got people that range from being very technical in nature to those who are more, a little bit more the salesy side, right? And all of that has a place within the process of helping customers find, the best solution for their needs. So I think it's good to expose a new member to some of those different styles, and they will develop their own, without a doubt.
So
You're smirking. You definitely have a story here.
So let me ask a question. Do you preface anything with constructive criticism on that person? Like, would you say, I'm not like I'm trying to think of something benign here in terms of that. But like this person has this quirk, and you don't want them to absorb that one quirk in terms
Mhm.
of things. Would you ever be like, listen, this person's fantastic for this, and this. Definitely pay close attention, take notes, anything. Just so you know as well. Like, there's a couple things that they do that we've been working on. Been trying to coach them around this. This like in terms of these couple aspects, I'm actually going to pair you with this person with what they do there because they manage their calendar better. Or like they don't say no. They're working at 7 o'clock at night. Like I'm trying to think of something because
Yeah,
I'm not trying to single any person out on my team
yeah.
so that I get yelled
So you're
at.
you're building this composite person of
I'm
all the
trying to
bad things,
build
right?
an overall person of that. Like,
I guess I never thought about it. I think I do that, but maybe not explicitly.
okay, okay,
But I definitely say, oh, go to this member of the team to, to get some, to understand the process for, driving things through our Salesforce process and our internal review processes, right? But with, I've got some members of my team who are very adept at that, right?
yes,
And others who are, very adept at the, the customer interaction and how to elicit requirements from a customer and make sure that they've documented all that. They do a really great job of documenting those things. So I guess I never really thought about it, but I guess I do that. I just don't
think about you. You still
explicitly
actually,
say like, yeah, oh, don't listen to what this person does for that thing.
sucks at this. Okay.
Well, I don't have anybody that sucks at anything on my
That's
team.
completely fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at CDI we are very spoiled with the people that we do have, whether it's technically, personality wise, in terms of being able to, I don't want to say charm a room, but be able to interact with a room in a beneficial way, right? And
Plus presence. It's having that presence.
right?
Yeah.
Now, something I haven't asked you before, and we didn't cover on the first episode that you were on, is we talked about why you became an SA, but we didn't really talk about how you became a leader. Like, some people, that's something that they really want to do. They want to lead people. Like we talked about a last episode, a lot of times, people they just think that's like the only way to get more money is
Right.
to have a team. How did you kind of fall into this gig?
Fall into it is actually a good descriptor. I will be honest. Early in my career, right, I actually really loved the idea of staying in a very technical track, right, and going for some sort of a principal engineer or a fellow or something like that.
Were you a hoarder of facts?
A little
Like,
bit,
like
yeah.
this is like I developed this or I know this little nugget and this is mine.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's always a part, especially when you come from a hands-on background. That's a part of that. Like, well, I know how to do this better than anybody.
That's my resume.
That's my right. Yeah, exactly. So I did really kind of fall into it, just through, making the transition from being a post-sales delivery engineer to being a solution architect, and then just sort of naturally becoming sort of you know, originally the unofficial sort of team lead, and then later the official team lead. But it honestly was not in my career goals to be a
Okay.
people leader or to be in management. And part of that came from early in my career having some sort of middling managers and saying, well, I don't know if that's really something I would want to do. And then I had the good fortune, while at high availability, which of course became part of CDI, to work with some exceptional leaders who I could see the satisfaction in building a team and seeing the success of that team and partaking in the team success as opposed to individual success.
Yeah.
And that became a really powerful opportunity to me, right? The ability to sort of partake in that and see, okay, this is what happens when you build a strong team and everyone succeeds together. And that changed my perspective on leadership and management. And that was when it sort of opened the door for me. And then, of course, when I became part of the CDI family, I was, given the opportunity to, to really, take that role on, and in a more formal sense.
Really
And,
dig it.
yeah, and again, it's been an awesome opportunity, and also at times challenging transition to focus on the team success rather than my own. I tend to look at it like if everyone's got my name on their lips, I'm probably doing the wrong thing there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want them talking about how great my team is and how well my team is meeting our customers' needs and meeting our needs as a business, and making sure that we're meeting our goals, helping our customers
True.
solve their problems, right? And I'm, not necessarily in the background, but I'm a supporting cast member there,
Yeah.
right?
You don't need your finger in every pie.
Yeah.
It's true. Another area that I struggled with for a while because it's one of the centers of influence instead of
Mhm.
excellence, but influence is like our deck creation, right? Like
Yeah.
so we have a lot of decks, we have a lot of things, and like you almost want to be like the founding member of a deck kind of thing, and like
Yep.
but like there's a lot of effort that goes into creating these things, whether
Yeah.
it's research and reading and little nuggets that you're putting in there in terms of like telling the story and whatever. And I mean, that was one of the things that was hard for me originally was turning that over
Mhm.
because also I was not the specialist of this.
Yeah.
It was now, Kyle was the specialist of whatever it was.
Sunglasses. For
Yeah,
instance.
sunglasses, Ray Bans versus, just going to Sunglass Hut and decide, they decide. I don't
Yeah.
know. Probably Gucci. Kyle's probably like Gucci.
Classy guy.
But yeah, I mean that's a tough transition
Yeah.
is even that content because like now I didn't research that stuff. It's like, well Bob's, the expert and whatever that
Yeah.
is. Like, the sales rep or the other SAs aren't coming to you anymore. They're coming to the person that created that.
Right. Yeah.
So that's tough.
On the whole, I think that's one of those leadership and management things, delegation. It's a challenge, right? It's a challenge to get good at it, know when to use that tool and how to use that tool successfully,
Mhm.
right? And again, we have the good fortune, I think, at CDI of having some good leadership coaching, and that's that it's a long road. It's hard to make that mental transition, but um, I try to stay focused on that success of the team, right? And I would rather have my team associated with and have the pride of owning that content, right? So I've tried to same thing. I've tried to move myself from like, okay, I'm going to sit down and create this content deck to I'm going to assign some of my team to do that, and then I may come by with the polishing rag afterwards, and
Sure.
do a little sprucing up or something like that. But but giving them empowering them to own that content and demonstrate their expertise,
Yeah.
right?
I'll
Yeah.
give you another example of one that I've been trying to relinquish is in terms of content creation is our what you missed blogs.
Mhm.
The conference we attend all the different
I know because you keep
conferences.
assigning those to me actually.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Right? Right.
Well, ChatGPT, right?
Sure. Well, polishes it. Polishes it. I hope because ChatGPT doesn't have the information from whatever just happened.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
but yeah, that's something that like I've always taken pride in being that voice of like whatever it was, and at many conferences this year I've assigned it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because like some of the people watching might know, a lot of times we not go on tour, but we kind of say, hey, ex customer, we attended this conference. Let us talk to you about
Yes.
the most impactful things in our opinions, right?
Yeah.
The ex vendor said this is the best thing they ever created, but it's actually like, hey, it's not even GA.
Right.
It's probably gonna be a couple of years.
Right,
The first
right.
version is probably gonna be mad, bad, like whatever, like that type of thing,
Yeah.
right? So I was always the person going on tour, maybe going like some of our vendors even want to go with us at different things. I know for last year, we did one with Dell or VMware at different venues.
Mhm.
I know Kyle did one down in Virginia.
Oh, did you?
You want a drink or? Okay. That's pretty lame. But it is tough to do that. It is tough to relinquish control, but it is also important because you can be spread too thin, and what you don't realize is your quality of work goes down.
Right.
You're holding yourself to this higher level of excellence because you were a senior principal, whatever, before you came in leadership, right? And um, you're not actually producing what you think you're producing
Right.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I
And very simply, right? Leadership and brand and scale, right?
Yeah.
That's Rob Owen's trademark directives, right? Brand and scale. So I think that same thing, right? I want to give my team an opportunity to build their own
Yeah.
brand
Yeah.
and become known for being the experts that they are. I don't necessarily need all of that to funnel through me,
Yeah.
but like anything, I think it's you have to recognize the change and then embrace the change rather than fight the change.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
someone's always going to move your cheese.
It's true. So another question I have, just because it's always challenging. I know now that we have larger teams, you're responsible for your team's education. So
Mhm.
so once again, legacy CDI, when our teams weren't as big, I was in charge of multiple different essays of multiple different disciplines, and I would try to do my best to be inclusive, but it was hard because there wasn't, networking, security, or different things were not my area, right? So I would do my best to include those things. Now thankfully that for even for them in terms of their development, that's been, isolated and specialized, right? So, whether it's trainings from a vendor or other things, how do you feel, is it's best to kind of enrich people in terms of their education?
Yeah, so I have taken a bit of an organic approach there where I can, right? And I've met with each member of my team to try to understand where their personal interests lie, right?
Okay.
Because I mean, my team as a whole covers networking, network security, collaboration, but that's a very broad field,
Yeah.
right? And
Fair.
constantly changing.
Yep.
And there's some members of my team who are very interested in data center networking technology, others that are very interested in enterprise networking. So I guess I've had the good fortune of not having to make really hard decisions there,
Okay.
but instead being able to help people focus on what's interesting to them.
Okay.
Um, but that then has informed, okay, who are we sending? What kind of conferences? Who are we sending to various vendor trainings? Who when we get a need to satisfy some certifications for a partner level or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that we can kind of dole those out based on the specialty. So I guess I've been a little bit fortunate there,
Yeah.
not having
Hey,
to kind of
that's good.
push someone in a direction that maybe isn't their natural inkling. So, but that again goes, I think, to the breadth of my team and the the all of their willingness to find some nugget within the space that we serve and
Yeah, them
go
actually
after it,
going
right?
after
Like,
it. That's
yeah.
nice. That's definitely nice, but that is hard, right? That is definitely something we struggled with, and I think any partner, I think any company,
hmm
because even if you're on the customer side, you have a lot of technologies, and you may be a small person team where you're a admin or engineer or architect of this and this, and there's two, and you have to know everything,
Right.
right? So I think no matter what, like, when you're a smaller team, you can't specialize. You have to be that jack of all trades.
Right.
And I know that's definitely what we were for a long time. It's like, hey, X person, I need you to take these like 4 certifications.
Yeah.
I need them next week, and none of them have anything to do with the other one.
Right.
Like, okay, like, all right,
Yeah.
we get
Yeah.
right on that.
That ability to spread out a little bit and
No, this-
maybe, hopefully, have
No.
people focus on something that's actually of interest to them.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
nice.
that is nice. I mean, and that is, I think, one of those things that I will say in terms of just recommendations for anybody watching is, luckily there is now a very verbose um, skill set range that people have, as well as topics that you can focus on. So if there's something genuinely, you do like, that you do gravitate towards, that you start to listen to it and you just sponge it up, take advantage of that. There's plenty of niche roles out there that you don't just have to generalize and look at like some CompTIA generalized like certification for whatever. Like, go after that one thing. Go after that one thing to learn. Um, and see where you end up, because whether it's a partner or a customer or a vendor, there's something out there that could take advantage of that.
Yeah. It's an interesting time, I think, in that sense, right? Like the what I see is the broad appeal at most enterprise customers or large business customers is someone who knows how to do a lot of things. Not necessarily that jack of all trades and master of none, but someone who's got a wide breadth of experience and capability, and then maybe one specialty, right? But there's definitely the opportunity to just keep growing your skill set,
Yeah.
because what I see less of, I think, is on the end customer side, right? Of having a lot of towers
Yeah.
of knowledge, right? It's much more the products and platforms, as well as the operators of those platforms, are moving to a more generalized format. And yet you still have to have someone who understands storage very, very well, or networking, or, cloud workloads or something like that. But that's not necessarily exclusive, right? An exclusive skill. They've got to also have a wide range of understanding of how those systems interoperate.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's a great place, and I think that's why you hear a lot of us tell the story of how we were some generalized something,
Mm-hmm.
and those make some of the best SAs, right? So along those lines, hey, if that's you, submit your resume. Is that no? Just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, that it does make a good person, in our field, because you do have a general technology. Like I've shared that, like I worked at a knock. I touched it every type of technology, unfortunately, there was.
Right.
But it was a great learning zone to also understand that this is connected to this, is connected to this, and how it is.
Right.
Because there needs to be that understanding of that everything, has to communicate some way, everything has to be important in some way and secured some way, whatever, right?
Right.
So it's definitely, but once again, it's nice that people can specialize these days. Because I know, me, I wanted to get into IT very early, but at the time that, like, and probably the same is true for you, there was only really programming like degrees. Like when I
Well,
was
that's actually what I got. I got
Yeah,
a comp sci degree.
yeah, and I looked at that, and I told this story before, I think, but I was in a C++ class, and yeah, I just looked around. It was this late night lab, and my friends were like, I literally just got a phone, and were sending me messages saying like, hey, like, what are you doing, blah blah blah. And I was writing some random basic program, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't my thing. This is
Yeah,
my
yeah.
cup of tea.
Yeah.
So, like, now, I mean, I think you could do like anything. I mean, I know one of the guys who actually works at CDI. He went back to school to get, I believe, his master's,
Mhm.
and I think he got like 3 Cisco certifications.
Right.
Like that, like it's amazing how things have matured and developed, that you can get a formal or informal education. You get a YouTube education,
Yeah.
for a lot of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. It's funny. My path was almost a little bit opposite. I actually, I was 3.5 years through a computer science degree at a well-known engineering school, and what I discovered was that I enjoyed the problem solving. Right, when I could sit down and write some code in a night to solve some problem, um, I really enjoyed that. And when the computer science degree started to morph into code efficiencies and spec writing and all those things, it lost a lot of its luster for me. And it was funny. My last year, I was signing up for classes before the term started, and it was a class called Introduction to Computer Networking. I said, oh, maybe I'll try that, see what that's about, and kind of changed the course for me. Yeah, well, it's actually, I mean, and then within the process of taking that class and the class after it, and working with the professor, I managed to get my CCNA, my CCNP, my CCPA, my and all the a whole bunch of those certs, and obviously that kind of changed my career arc from software development to back to sort of an IT route, which is where I had done a lot of internships and things like that. But yeah, it's interesting how sometimes what seems like an inconsequential choice at the time can have long-term effects.
Yeah.
But things change a little bit. I mean, based on the shades of our beers, I think I probably I was a few years earlier than you in that process.
I'll say that there's been a lot more gray showing up in these areas of late, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the age of my son, or it's something. I don't know what it is, but it is no bueno. So before we wrap up here, we didn't actually say what this was.
We did not.
So this was brought in by our last guest. This is Mellick Hard Cider. They're based out of New Jersey. King Street Hop. So it's a hoppy hard cider, which honestly I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of ciders, especially when they are not basically liquid sugar.
Right.
And this is not. It is very dry.
It's very dry, but it's got a great floral kind of hoppy note, right? Hits you good. I'm kind of out of practice. I don't know if I can identify the hops. It probably says on the back here, but
It probably does.
yeah, but really delicious.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
We haven't had really another cider on here, but I don't even know what
I could
is.
probably drink the rest of that.
But this is fantastic. I definitely recommend it to anybody because it's clean. It's not like a hazy, dirty kind of hop like some people think like of hoppy stuff. It's very crisp still, so highly recommend it.
Yeah,
but
great.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us today on another episode of SAs and IPAs. We appreciate it, just like every time. We do appreciate your feedback. So whether it's one of the social media posts that we have of this content, please comment. Also, SAs and IPAs at cdillc.com. Please send us an email. We do read them. We do take your feedback, and we appreciate you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to SAs and IPAs, a production of CDI Studios. SAs is produced by Spencer Grogan and Alyssa Hall. Please like and subscribe to CDI's YouTube channel to stay up to date on the latest CDI content, including videos on our practice areas and our bi-weekly installments of CDI Live, where experts sit down to answer your questions on today's trending technology topics. You can also follow the podcast on your favorite podcast directory.